Hey, everybody, welcome back to LWN Network. It's so great to see everybody already in chat, raring to go with the show tonight. It is December 15th, 2025. And boy, what a weekend it was, and what a Monday show we have for Jeff B. and Brandy and Cigars tonight. It's going to be a good one. Him and I are all ramped up to talk about all the chaos going on, all the stuff that happened over the weekend. What's really going on with Tina Peters? We're going to cover that tonight. We're going to cover the 51 names. Remember, Jeff talked about that back in the day on LWN, talking about the 51 people that were trying to overtake the government in 2020. Well, we've got some interesting information on that for you guys tonight as well. And boy, that House bill, that military budget, defense budget that was passed in the House, that is going to put some hairs on the back of your neck standing up with the amount of money and where that money went. Jeff and I got that covered, all that and much more to come tonight. We look forward to the show. So kick back, grab something to drink, grab a snack to chew on. And we hope that you guys have some comments in chat. We're going to get to many of those as we can tonight. And we will be right back after this little break. Well, happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday, Jeff B. How's it going?
It's cold.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that. Here in Georgia, we got down to the 20s and we're topping off at 40, 42. How about you?
We are at 8 degrees, feels like -4.
Oh, no. The bottom has fallen out right across the country. You know, I did hear some good news in a few days, maybe 4 or 5 days. We're supposed to get a major heat wave all across the West Coast. There's supposed to be way warmer than usual. Here on the East Coast, for us, we're going to at least climb up a little bit. It's going to be cooler than normal, but it's not going to be in the 40s anymore. So that's a little bit of good news if we can hang out the next few days.
Yeah, it's supposed to be around 50 here. So then, we have all this snow here now. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, because when it melts and then kind of refreezes, that is the worst.
Right.
Try to shovel and scoop. I remember those days. It's horrible. It's bad. But anyhow, there's so much to cover tonight. We might as well get started. First off, I wanted to catch everybody up on the store, Jeff B., and the products in there. I'm going to show a couple things, and we can go ahead and cover those because I think it's been going pretty well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So Jeff B. has gotten a lot of these animal badges out. This one is the Appaloosa from Idaho. So that one is out, you guys. If you want to purchase a shirt, the link is tagged and pinned to the top of the page. Plus, the mods do have that tagged as well in chat tonight. They will be showing that. But I think that one's pretty cool. And don't forget, they can choose all these different colors as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then we've got this one, the Georgia one that is out there. And it's so cool because these animal badges that War Machine made do have the animal that is the state animal. And then it has the state flag. It's got the LWN badge face mask logo on the chest of these. And then the date that the state became a state. So I think it's pretty cool. War Machine is going to be putting more and more up there. That's for sure. It's just a process. And then also we've got this one, which is really cool. I bought this one for my son for Christmas. It's the Liberty Warrior Nation Blaze Breaker, and it's got all the firefighters on there and stuff. And I think that one's pretty cool. So, Jeff, things have been pretty good with getting them out there on time and stuff pretty fast too, huh?
Yeah, we're from the time that they're ordered till the time that they get the tracking number tagged is about 48 hours.
Yeah, that's awesome. Not much time at all. And before we get into the start of the meat of the show, I want to let you guys know that all of the coin winners and all of the $25 winners from Jeff B have been taken care of. Everything is done and over with. We just have one more person, Mary V. If you're out there, you have the rest of this week in order to claim your coin. Otherwise, we have to recycle it. So Mary V, you did win a silver coin. So we need you to get a hold of us at tammynation@gmail.com and give us your complete information so we can get that shipped out to you today. That's the only one that is outstanding. So Mary V, you do have this week, and then we're going to have to recycle it, unfortunately, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, right? All right. So Jeff, I guess we can get started on Tina Peters. Oh my gosh. So Tina Peters is quite a convoluted situation. There's a lot of information out there that says, well, Trump didn't have a reason to be able to pardon her federally. It's not going to work. However, I've got some information that says because the feds were involved, he has every right to. I think it's a very interesting thing going on. And I think Tina Peters is going to be a key to a lot of things breaking wide open. Do you think so?
Yeah, I think once Trump declared the election a national security issue, anybody that has evidence or is I'm trying to think of how they phrase a principal witness
Okay.
to something, then, the federal government can step in and, take over. And with these two generals defecting from Venezuela defected / extracted, because Trump just come out today early this morning and said, wait till you see the treasure trove of 2020 evidence we have now.
And that's what I found interesting, because he spoke on that today. He slammed Colorado and the governor, saying it's a horribly poor run state, incompetent. I mean, he's not holding any punches with people and the names and the things that he's saying about them. But he said that because Tina went out and she looked into the 2020 and the scams that were being committed, that's why they locked her up and they put her in for 9 years. He said that also, he said that the governor, this is pretty strong words, was run by the Trent Aruga. How do you say that? Trent
Trent
There we go, Trent Duragua. I did go to say it right, but man, my tongue started spinning. The criminals from Venezuela, he said, that took over sections of Colorado. And he said he was afraid to do anything about the voting and all that because of that, yet he's going to lock Tina Peters up. I think it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I think there's, Trump put out there that California and Gavin Newsom has some surprises coming.
Way overdue. I cannot wait to see that, because he did talk about that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video. I've got it sped up. It's going to be about Bannon and also her lawyer or attorney or whatever. So they're going to cover a little bit of this. I have it sped up to go fast. So hopefully we'll still be able to understand it. I think we can, because it covers a lot of what you and I just said in detail.
Tina Peters went to trial. They found her guilty, I think, of 7 felonies. Look, she's a Gold Star mother. She's in ill health. She's held, I think, in a medium security.
And guys, give me a 5x5 if you can hear it. Since I'm running the show tonight, I got to make sure that I got all the settings right. And I did have to do an update right before we went on. So make sure you give me a 5x5, please.
Women's prison in Colorado, which my understanding is quite dangerous with the inmates there. She's being abused and picked on all the time when she's not in solitary confinement. But just for the audience, didn't you guys have every opportunity to present all this evidence at her case, at her trial, before she was found guilty of 7 felonies by a jury of her peers? Especially because some of the charges were very specific to what you're talking about today, correct?
I know the charge. First of all, she was convicted of 4 felonies. She was acquitted of 3, okay. And we had no chance to present evidence about why Tina did what she did. So why she did what she did is she knew that the Secretary of State was going to erase the digital election records that she, as county clerk, was obligated to preserve by federal law. And once she knew that, she made arrangements with a qualified cybersecurity consultant to make an image of the Mason County election management server hard drive so those records would be preserved. The image that she made was legal. The gentleman who did it was authorized to enter the room. Tina had the legal authority to authorize that gentleman to do the work that he did. And the cameras were turned off to protect the identity of that person who had requested that his identity not be revealed because he was being hunted by the cartels for his work for the FBI in a child trafficking internet operation. So Tina honored his request that his identity be kept secret. The cameras were turned off, but that was legal. The cameras were not required to be turned on. And the convictions occurred because his identity was misrepresented as Gerald Wood instead of his real name, Conan Hayes. Gerald Wood voluntarily agreed to let this gentleman use his county key card to get into the room and identify himself as Gerald Wood. Gerald Wood agreed to that in advance. So there was no identity theft. There was no conspiracy to steal identity.
John, why did the judge not allow you guys to make that case? And is that one of the basis for your appeal? I mean, it's kind of shocking that these fundamental things of her intent and what she was seeing was not allowed in. Why did the judge rule that? How did he come to that ruling?
He said that it was irrelevant. If you can believe it, he said it was irrelevant and that it would confuse the jury if they knew that that the machines potentially could be rigged and that Tina was performing a federal duty. He refused to instruct the jury on Tina's main defense, which was execution of a public duty. The judge refused to allow the jury even to see a copy of the federal statute that Tina was obeying, 52 USC 20701. So we only one side of the case was presented, the prosecution side. We didn't get to present ours. And that's the basis of the appeal.
That's the basis of the appeal. They're saying that appeal and what you're doing there is part of the reason that they're not going to, at least one of the excuses they use. Can you just get us up to speed on what is the overall plan here? The president is pardoned. There's now this huge controversy whether that has traction. You got justice working on a bunch of stuff. I hear there's grand juries all over the place. Can you just give us the big picture of what's the effort and how President Trump's pardon ties into? Because what this audience wants is Tina Peters' freedom, and particularly Tina Peters' freedom by Christmas. Is there any chance of that, or is there anything coming together that you see revolving around President Trump's pardon?
Well, first of all, we're very grateful for the support of your listeners and viewers. And they can find Tina's entire story at tinapeters.us. And they can also contribute there to her personal needs and to her legal fund, tinapeters.us. Now, with respect to the pardon, the state has refused to recognize what we believe is a valid presidential pardon. So at some point, that will have to be litigated. And we haven't made a decision when that will be raised in the appellate case. But it will be raised, and we believe the pardon is valid. Oral argument in Tina's case is set for January 14th, 2026 at 2:30 p.m. in the Colorado Court of Appeals, and that will be live streamed if people want to go there to watch it.
So that's the thing, Jeff. They weren't even allowed to put evidence in there. They're saying, and we know that the feds were all over that case because people's homes got raided. Remember over this? What was it? It was, it says that if she had, this is a little clip to why the state, because when it's a state thing, the federal pardon is not granted, right? Because it's a state issue. However, this is showing you and telling you that because the feds were involved, that Trump is allowed to pardon her, and they should be listening, because this is how convoluted and messy it gets. If you don't pay attention to everything, it's easy to say, well, she's not going to be let out because it's a state issue. And this is saying that it's not because of all this evidence that came through. So it says the former Mesa County, Colorado election clerk Tina Peters broke no state or federal laws by backing up her election management server hard drive, having it analyzed, and even publishing the results. If she had, the federal and Colorado state governments would have legally come down on her for doing so, especially during the Biden administration. In other words, they're saying not one state or federal charge resulted from Tina's actions backing up her county server because they had nothing. They said Colorado, likely at the behest of the DOJ, had to manufacture imaginary felonies and misdemeanors against Clerk Peters and then prosecute her in the state's court. So this is just another avenue of how convoluted things get. It's never cut and dry. And, you know, they broke a lot of laws. Our own government again broke a lot of laws.
Well, I think, if this was like a midterm election or like a local county election, I mean, I'm no legal scholar, but I think that argument would stand. But once you put the presidential election on a ballot, it now becomes federal. And federal law supersedes state law. So and like I said, I think this is why, Trump's going to issue this national emergency on elections. And, possibly, if he hasn't already done the Insurrection Act, because these federal judges, state and local judges, are so corrupt. I mean, when you show this list of people who have been brought out that they're accepting money from drug cartels, it's mind blowing.
It seems like everybody, I don't want to say everybody, but over 90% of people have. The corruption just runs. We've talked about this local level to federal level to countrywide to worldwide. And it's just insanity when you break everything apart. That's why I say it's so confusing and exhausting, not just even for you and I who are in this all the time, but for people who aren't paying as much of attention. It's easy for them just to shrug it off and say, oh, that's politics, without realizing you have to get in the game to survive and make sure this doesn't happen where our country falls apart. And before you know it, you've lost all your privileges that you have, the so-called privileges we think we have. You have to understand what a mess this is all the way around. And it's just getting uglier and uglier. I think the faucet is no longer dripping. I really think that there's a flow, like you said, a flood, I believe.
Yeah. And I would be very, very shocked if before Christmas, Trump doesn't order the DOJ to send in U.S. Marshals into that prison to take her out. Just because of the health conditions. He issued her a pardon, and she's being held in a federal facility. Mm-hmm. So if a so-called president can issue a pardon for crimes that have yet to be committed, and no judges are striking this down, or Congress isn't even contemplating this, I don't see how a pardon issued from a president on a current issue that she has been found guilty of, this is. I would be shocked if it doesn't happen before Christmas, just for the symbology of it. But I think once we get past the first of the year, after the holidays, I think is when we're really going to start seeing a lot of stuff take hold.
Yeah, I do believe that people are really getting past fed up. And Bannon and then the founder of Warpath Coffee, who's always on a show, they were saying that Bongino needs to get his butt down there, even if they need to use force and get her out. They're like, why are they not taking any action at all? If Trump pardoned her, and we know everything about that, you and I are talking about, of the crimes committed against her unjustly, why aren't they doing anything? And it goes in line with, we've been saying forever, do something. We haven't had accountability at all from anybody yet, from COVID-19 on. And that's part of something I want to cover later with Laura Loomer, because she spoke at an event, or Laura Logan, not Laura Loomer. And she had some pretty interesting information as far as Trump being in office and about no accountability, because you have said, and I have said, and LW has said that if there's no accountability, we are screwed and tattooed, and not in a good way, because the same people who committed all these atrocities the last years, 5 years, 6 years, they'll be able free to do them again. And we know if we lose midterms, we really are in deep trouble.
Well, eventually, there's going to have to be, if any of this is true, there's going to have to be some accountability. And, going into the midterms, if, let's say everything was above board, 2020 was above board, 2024 was above board.
Mm-hmm.
Trump screwed in his last 2 years. Not only will his base just absolutely collapse because people want to see something, because he has been dropping all of these hints that something we talked about before the show with some of these pictures that he just released, insinuating that 46 is done, that that didn't exist. And if not, I mean, the second part of his term is just going to be nothing but impeachment.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what they're saying. That's part of what we're going to cover towards the end of the show, because that's one of the things. They already voted to impeach him again, and they lost the vote. So, I got a couple things. So is there any way you can answer this from Patriot Girl Deb? She said, Jeff, at any point, does the president have to notify the people of implementation of Insurrection Act?
Well, the way I read it, and it's been a while since I've looked at it. I mean, this was 3 or 4 years ago. I believe that there is a clause in there where the commander-in-chief president has to come out and basically tell the people to go home peacefully. And it's not in that exact wording, but that's my interpretation of it. Trump fulfilled, I mean, I was going, and I think we even did a show that night on J6, the evening of J6. And, I told the viewers that, look, that is a very, very unique way of telling people to knock it off. And if you read the Insurrection Act, there's stipulations and certain things that have to be accomplished prior to invoking it. And my interpretation is that was one of the things that he had to complete. And I know there's a lot of people out there said, no, he's never done it. Mike Flynn has said, no, he should have done it. I am in the camp of continuity of government was started that night, because of the simple fact is I know somebody who was working at high levels of the FBI that was in the room when the quote unquote operation was going on to get Nancy Pelosi's laptop. So in order for that type of operation to take place, they had to have some sort of evidence that we know somebody took to the U.S. Supreme Court, because we had all those military JAG officers at the Supreme Court. Yeah. So to me, I mean, I think we all wanted to see this happen a lot quicker than it has.
Yeah.
But I mean, the warning signs have been there, and I think it's just getting more and more evident that something is about ready to kick off.
Yeah, I hope so, because we know how deep of a mess and how much of a mess. Before we get to this next comment that I want to bring up, that a listener had to ask you, LW guys was very busy today. He's got work stuff and all this other stuff that he's taking care of, but he's obviously in the car somewhere and he's having his son text. So that's where LW's at. He's busy. He was very sorry he couldn't make the show tonight. It was a last minute thing with issues that he had to deal with. So LW, thanks for checking in. Noah, it's good to have you checking in and texting for your dad. So he'll be on again probably the next show, guys, but he's okay. And I forgot to say that at the beginning of the show because there was so much stuff going on here that I forgot to do that. But that's where he's at tonight. He's here in spirit anyhow. So this is the next question Jeff B., Conservative Cowboy, has. He says, what do you think that all this the AG needs to do is open investigation on 2020 election fraud and then declare Tina Peters a federal witness and send U.S. Marshals to get her out? Well, that's interesting.
Well, and I think this is, I honestly believe Trump wanted to give the courts their 50th opportunity to do the right thing.
Okay.
Because no matter what he does, it's going to be illegal. Because, you know, you're going to have people on the left, people on the right saying he's a dictator, he's enough, authoritarian, and, you know, we're going to give him one more shot. And if this happens, then yes, you are now, remember RICO.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are now a main witness to a conspiracy to overthrow the U.S. government. Once that happens, once you can start filling the check marks for sedition and treason, a lot of these rules and laws go out the window. It gives the purview to the U.S. military. And the military does not go by state or federal law. The military goes by the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is a whole different ball of wax. The proof, I'm trying to think of the word, discovery, everything is a whole different ball of wax.
And see, that's what common people like us don't really understand. So when you give us that information, it's awesome because it's so easy to be confused and lose hope and get frustrated. So it's so many tangled webs with everything. And it's like you get to the point of who do you trust? Who do you believe and all that? And so I've also got something that's coming up pretty soon that the mods are going to drop a link in that I think is going to give people some hope as well. Because I'm telling you, I've been extremely frustrated and seeing the judges over and over blockading Trump on all the actions he's trying to take with the illegals, getting them out and putting America first, and they're blocking him has been so frustrating to me. But even I saw there was a judge, and it was one I talked about this summer, about how there was an illegal and the ICE was outside to get that illegal. She stops court proceedings, takes that illegal and helps them escape out the back door of her courtroom, Jeff. And guess what? She got nailed and she's being prosecuted now. So hallelujah. Right. So like you said, I think some things are actually happening.
Right. Well, there's a lot of stuff that I bring up to the big chair and some other guys in different agencies, and I can tell just by, them saying, I can't talk about it, or, they instantly change topic because they don't want to get caught saying something that they shouldn't. And, with this thing with Trump this morning, with putting out, the deficit, he cut the deficit in half with the tariffs. We had these 2 people in the military that were killed in Syria.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And the big chair told me this morning that, he's about ready to wreak havoc on Syria. They're going to be blowing the shit out of that. And, Venezuela, I think once there's a couple more things that are done, because there was a supposed cyber attack on all their oil refinery
Oh,
that shut everything down this evening.
interesting.
So that's kind of like a prelude of us wanting to do some operations, I guess you could say.
Well, Trump did say he was going to retaliate with that attack that happened, because it was, like you said, it was two National Guardsmen from Iowa, and then it was a civilian interpreter, and then there were, I think, 3 more that were injured in Syria, and they called it an ambush from alleged ISIS. So that is very scary. It is very wrong and very scary, but it's like a little skirmish, right? Begins there. We're still worried about Ukraine and Russia. And then also, excuse me, Trump did say that land attacks are going to start beginning in Venezuela. Now, I haven't heard since he said that if it did indeed start. Do you know anything more about that?
There were rumors of something happening earlier today, and I'm referring to 2 or 3 o'clock this morning. But I think there's something has been put, not necessarily on the back burner, but a pause because of the FBI raids that happened today in Los Angeles. The FBI foiled a multi-pronged terrorist attack that was supposed to happen in LA on New Year's. And they were, some terrorist cells were doing some IEDs in the desert in Nevada. And this would correlate to what Monkey was talking about over the last 2 or 3 days with all of these ISR flights flying in Nevada. So they were watching them probably enough to, seal the deal on getting a warrant for all these raids.
Yeah, well, that would make sense. And then, we said, and we were warning people, and with all the illegals that come in and not knowing who they were, that these little skirmishes also would be starting around here. And we had the Brown University incident in Rhode Island. And then we had the Bondi Beach in Australia, the father and son with the attacks there. And we're hearing more and more rhetoric from a lot of the Islamic people, I guess you would say, or the people that aren't good in this country, saying they're going to take it over. And so it's very scary. It's a very scary time. It's awful. It shouldn't be that way. So this going over to Syria, and defending obviously what happened, I get it. But I mean, I'm more worried about the stuff at home here, Jeff, of what's going on. Why aren't we getting more and more of these people rounded up?
Well, I mean, I think we are, but I think there is someone or some engine within our government blocking a lot of this. I don't know if it's the AG, if it's the assistant AG, and I think that's why this mysterious report came out tonight about Bongino saying he's going to make a decision whether he's staying or not. When I asked the big chair about it, once again, I got a no comment. So I don't know if, Bongino is, wanting to kick some tires and start doing stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't, the whole thing in Australia to me didn't make any sense, because if you, and I'm going to put my conspiracy hat on.
Okay, go ahead.
If you watch the video and look at the still images where these people were shot, and this is me, I don't know if it's there or not, but I didn't really see any much blood. I seen people standing around with their hands in their pockets, like nothing was going on. There wasn't, to me, it didn't look like it was a big panic. Now, where my conspiracy hat goes on is this an Israeli ploy to get support behind Israel and the Jews so we funnel money to them? Because, it's like I said, it's not the Jewish people, it's the government. And if we cut their money off, they're stuck like Chuck.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just a lot of people that out there that don't want any good for us. They don't care about us. They don't love the country to keep it the way it is. They want to change it. And I've seen a lot of that on videos lately, them stating it themselves and having little cells and saying we need to not stop until we take it over. And, it didn't work. Somalia didn't work. And all these countries, what they want doesn't work. So why do they want to come here and do it here? It's not going to work. Like, I don't understand it. It is so messed up, the thinking when it comes to that. Freedom of speech and freedom to do what you want, is say what you want. I mean, that it doesn't have limitations, but we can't go to other countries and do that. That doesn't mean that no matter what you say, it's okay to say when you're threatening the very country that you're occupying for, supposedly adapting to their ways and being thankful to be here. So, we just have a lot of work to do. That's all there is to it. But somebody was also talking about when you brought up the Clintons, that's another thing about accountability. The House, James Comer did say that the Clintons needed to show up for the Epstein hearings on December 17th, I think it was, or they needed to schedule a date for early January. And somebody just said in chat that he allowed them to wait until January. So is that normal? Like, are they allowed? Well, I can't make it on the 17th. I've been avoiding it. And now I'll come up with something in January. What the hell is that all about?
Well, I mean, I'm sure between their legal counsel and Congress, anything is possible, but I don't remember Steve Bannon or Peter Navarro being afforded that opportunity.
Yeah, don't you remember seeing them in handcuffs paraded in front of everybody?
Right. And I don't listen to Bannon, but has he said anything about them not being arrested?
Yeah, he said, don't you remember me going down along there? And he's like, that's what he keeps saying. Do something. He's just been on a tangent lately because he feels nobody's doing anything. And he's actually, him and Mike Flynn both have been telling Trump, listen, we don't know who you're listening to or why you're doing what you do. We don't always agree, but something needs to be done. And they feel like there's just a lot of bad people around Trump giving them bad advice and keeping stuff from him. And I can't even imagine, Jeff, the amount of stuff that Trump has to deal with every day. I can't even imagine. We can't put the burden on one man. You know what I mean? We have to all, that's why we all have to do our part. It's not one man coming to save everybody. It's impossible for him to do that, especially when, he gets blockaded by Congress and stuff. So yeah, Bannon's not happy with that either, any of that stuff. And speaking of, since you brought up like people around him or what Bannon's saying, it reminds me of what happened the other day. And you and I talked about this, about the House passing the big military defense budget, which is a yearly budget they have to pass, right?
Right.
So it was a vote of 312 to 112. Do you know that bill, Jeff, was 3,086 pages? And Tim Burchett, the representative from Tennessee, said a lot of people didn't get to read through that. How are we have time to read through all that? And some of the stuff that was in that bill, And I'm glad you're here tonight so I can ask you, and we'll get to the other two you and I talked about, the big ones at the end. But it said that it's funding of $1 billion towards the Taiwan Security Cooperation Initiative. So is that normal? Like, what does that mean? Does that mean we're supplying security for Taiwan
Yes,
at $1 billion, right?
correct.
Okay, then 1.5 billion in new security assistance for the Philippines. So that means it's new assistance we're giving the Philippines, right?
Yeah, in addition to what we already give them.
In addition.
Correct. Now, what
Yeah.
I don't have the verbiage in front of me, but just speaking from working out of Admiral Blair's office, a lot of that money that earmarked is for, let's say, when we bring in a carrier battle group into port,
Okay.
doing the replenishing of what we call SUPs, which are supplies like food, all that stuff. That money that's allocated for their security is what is used to pay all the local vendors. So we're not per se taking $1.5 billion and just giving it to the Philippines. It's an allocation for, it's a line item to where when we notify, let's say Subic Bay, that we're going to bring in, we're going to have more port visits than normal, then there's a funding stream that is used to pay the additional money that's required to do those port visits, and that stretches throughout all branches of the military.
Okay, so it's pretty normal, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, it happens quite a bit because you got to figure too, inflation. They work that kind of stuff into it.
Okay, well, this is what didn't make me happy. And I think you kind of agreed. The bill also supplies Ukraine with $800 million. It's going to be $400 million for the next 2 years. And remember, this is the military defense budget, which means it's supplying them for their military weaponry. Am I right with that?
Yes, I believe that is what they're telling us is going to allocate that money for them to purchase some of our old equipment. So it's kind of like a money wash almost. So instead of us saying we're just going to give you this, well, we're going to give you a Defense Department credit card to where you can go weapon shopping. So we're still paying for it. It just makes it look nicer. That's my interpretation of it.
Okay, so it's not, people shouldn't be bummed out about money to Ukraine.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm getting sick of sending any money over there.
There you go. Yeah.
To me, that's Europe's problem. You know, you have all these channels that are pro-Ukrainian and all this shit, and you know, we got to abide by the agreement. Well, when we overthrew Yanukovych, you know, no one was worried about it then. And if, you know, Russia was supposed to be defeated 2 years ago. And I personally think there is some reason why Putin hasn't done what I think Putin really and his generals really want to do. And me personally, the way I look at it is I think this portion of what's going on is to expose NATO, because NATO was nothing, you know, to me, if we're flipping mostly all the money for NATO, why aren't these other countries putting in, you know, why aren't
That's yes.
This whole thing, because to me it doesn't make sense. I mean, you're starting to see the reports of the United States or somebody starting to do cyber attacks, starting to drop power grids inside Venezuela, doing the X, Y, and Z, which we did right before the Gulf War One, right before the Gulf War Two. And you mean Vladimir Putin and his generals weren't smart enough to do this in the Ukraine? To me, it doesn't make any sense. So something else is going on, and yeah, I don't. Where are all the embedded correspondents at? You know,
Yeah.
during the first and second Gulf War, hell, they had Peter Arnett and all these other guys running right with them.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, all growing up watching that, they were always there. I guess there's nobody trustworthy anymore to do it. I don't know. But it's like, how do you get inside information then? Like they used to put out there live information that can't be spun, that can't be, made up or whatever. It's just insane to me. The last little part too was 692 million for Israel. And, my whole thing with this is, it's such huge amounts of money, and I don't see that money, those huge amounts, to help us, the American people, help us get some kind of loans to start businesses and stuff. And it's just, I mean, this is a yearly budget, you guys. I mean, it's a yearly budget they figure out, and I guess I'm just never gonna quite understand it. I guess that's why I'm not running for the presidency anytime soon. But those kind of numbers, they just kill me. And it's like, how do you trust that the dollars go where they need to go after all the exposure that we've all seen over the years? It's just hard for me to stomach them signing a over 3,000 page document. And it seems like when it comes to giving money to other countries and stuff, they never have a problem signing. You know what I mean? This was mutual. And I know it's the defense budget, isn't it? One of the main budgets they have to get it done, right?
Correct.
It's a mandatory thing. But I don't know.
I mean, to me, this should piss off every American, and this reminds me of the infamous phrase that Nancy Pelosi said during Obamacare. Well, we have to pass it before we know what's in it. Just think of, if we were to tell Israel, you know what, do your own shit.
Yeah.
Just think of whether you support this administration or don't support this administration. If you were to take $600 billion, and we shouldn't have, my philosophy on this is we shouldn't, before we give a damn cent to people who hate us, and people need to remember Israel's one of our only allies that ever attacked us and never paid the consequences for it, with the USS Liberty. So, people should be able to hate us for free. I mean, we're
not why we give them millions and billions and trillions over the years.
Right. I mean, the United States has, enough assholes not to like us.
Exactly. That is well put. That's well put, Jeff. They should be able to like us for free, dislike us for free.
Right.
I like that. Yes. So then we've got, before we get to the 51 names, which is the next thing, real quick, tying up Venezuela and everything going on with that and the boats. And we've been hearing about the drug boats that they've been taking out and taking down. Of course, the left is trying to spin it a whole different way. But today, Trump did sign an EO that is classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. How about that? A weapon of mass destruction. He said it does worse than bombs. It's been killing 200,000 to 300,000 people a year that we know of. So that, I think, was a big deal. But is that, Jeff, another EO that's just it's going to fall flat because none of the EOs have been made into anything?
Well, on the surface, it sure looks like it. And, I don't understand all the outrage of, the military taking out these drug boats. Apparently, people forgot about Ron Reagan and the Say No to Drugs campaign, where they had the DEA and everybody knocking. No one had a problem with that. But, wartime is hell. And, when Trump declared these people a terrorist organization, we didn't have a problem with, Trump sliding a picture over to the Taliban leader saying, hey, if you hurt one hair on these soldiers' heads, here you go. Here's your house, and it may not be there.
Yep. And, here it comes in Syria, what happened with the soldiers we just talked about and stuff, and the Venezuelans. I mean, people, I don't know, they keep pushing it and pushing it. What is he supposed to do? I think that I support him standing strong and saying that. I don't like war any more than anybody else does, but our people don't deserve that. Nobody deserves that. So, you've been warned, and we'll have to see what comes with Syria and also with Venezuela for sure. So the next thing I want to do is show a video, Jeff. It's John Solomon real quick, and it's talking about the 51 names, because you talked about that a lot, and you were talking about the CIA and all that and trying to overthrow the government in 2020, and they apparently succeeded. But what happened was through the Freedom of Information Act, this information was released about the CIA and what happened in Brennan and all that. So let me just play this real quick, and then we'll talk about it. Got to share the screen, Tammy. All right. Here we go. 5x5, if you guys can hear it. I think it should be good, though.
Short while ago, Justin News obtained this email. This is a very important email. It comes from the former CIA director, Mike Morrell. Yes, the guy that organized that letter from the 51 intelligence professionals who tried to fake you into thinking that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation when it wasn't. It is between him and John Brennan, one of the signatories. You know who John Brennan is? He was Obama's CIA director, right? He's the guy that told Obama, hey, Hillary Clinton is doing a dirty trick on Donald Trump called Russia collusion. Well, this is just before the presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Hunter Biden's laptop is flinging out there. This is what Mike Morrell, former CIA director, tells his successor, John Brennan. Hey, sign this letter because I'm, quote, trying to give the campaign, particularly during the debate on Thursday, a talking point to push back on Trump on this issue. A man with a security clearance, a man with the title of CIA director, knew that he wasn't creating an intelligence product, a mere civic duty with 51 people. He was trying to create a political moment. Damning evidence. We'll try to find out if Congress has this letter, but this is a very important piece. It is the ultimate proof that what went out on that letter was a political dirty trick coordinated with the Biden campaign.
So what do you think about that?
Well, to me, we keep hearing the phrase that the military is the only way. And I think this is all leading up to that, to where it's going to where all branches of government are so broken and deposed that you are going to have the military step in and basically shut it all down. And I'm on the same perspective is if Trump is lying to the American people, the same thing should be done. To me, there's no political lines with this. It's just outright treason. If these guys have developed a product, which, that's in the intelligence business, that's what we call it. We call it a product to the customer, whether the customer is the President of the United States, Derns, whoever. If they knowingly and willingly fabricated information, then, get ready to swing.
Well, Gina Haspel approved it, and it was not just the CIA, it was the director, Gina Haspel. And I remember you and LW talking about her back in the day as well. And then Kash Patel said, since the inception of 1947, the CIA has a legal mandate to never interfere domestically, especially with partisan politics. And this letter shows that Gina Haspel's CIA broke that mandate. that legal mandate did just that, and her employees went out and had signatures added to a letter they knew it contained false information. And there better be a whole host of subpoenas going out to Gina Haspel, her leadership team, and every one of those people that have now been on the email chain adding signatures to that letter. So subpoena, subpoena, subpoena. It seems like that's what we're hearing. The words committed treason seem to be coming true, like you just said. And then subpoenas left and right flinging all over the place. And remember, didn't you say that each of those envelopes back in the day had how many in there? How many could fit in those envelopes, you said?
Well,
Or-
I mean, you can have a single indictment, and that could be, the indictment could be for a country, could be for a company, or it could be for an individual person, you know. But eventually, this is going to fall on Donald Trump, because he has told people that this is going to happen. Kash Patel, when he wasn't the director of the FBI, said this was going to happen. Dan Bongino, even though he didn't come out and directly say this was going to happen, he's made comments that if I was put in a level of government to make this happen, it would happen. Well, all right, you have all these people that are supposedly going to make it happen. So, you know, President Trump, what are we waiting on?
Yeah. What are we waiting on?
And if you're getting blocked, sidewalled, whatever, guess what you do? You bring in the Secretary of Defense, you bring in the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and you say, all right, boys, this isn't getting done constitutionally. Here you go. I'm invoking the Insurrection Act. You guys take care of it.
And I think that's what has to be done. And that leads me into this warning that Laura Logan gave. Now, I'm just going to read through some little points on here because a lot of it makes sense. And it's kind of an interesting insight. She said people thought everything stopped because Trump's in office, but the machine kept moving at full speed. Their agenda never slowed down. She said Bill Gates-backed Digital ID just unveiled a globally interoperable system that permanently tracks vaccine status from birth. Executive orders, none are law, not a single one. You and I have talked about that with LW. They've done nothing with that. And she said the plan isn't to wait out Trump, it's to take the midterms and then impeach him. And she said in this time, the charges are going to be designed to stick. She said that this didn't pause, it adapted. Stall, delay, regroup. That's their strategy. She said accountability. Without it, everything's going to repeat. She said there's been no accountability with COVID abuses. That means they'll happen again. The same people will do the same thing. California, she said, is the test state that it's the closest thing to a Marxist state in America. The laws that steadily strip freedom, the blueprint for a national rollout. And she said that's where they test systems before scaling them nationwide. And then she said, Los Angeles elections, she pointed out to them, smart tech still runs them, only major jurisdiction where it remains, not an accident, and a controlled environment. And then she said the last part is, then came the math that should scare everyone. She said 22 states already under Democrat control. Several GOP states vote with them. Only 2/3 of states needed to change the Constitution. She said, if you think you're safe, you're not even close. She said, without real accountability, none of this is going to stop. Without mass consequences, the roadmap is already written. And that kind of gave me chills when I heard that, because a lot of this to me makes sense.
Yeah. You know, and this is my conspiracy hat going on again.
Please. That's the only place we seem to find some comfort lately.
So let's say within the next 2 to 3 weeks, Trump issues the national emergency. And it's not being abided by, whatever the national emergency is going to be. So Trump's out of options. Trump goes to SecDef, Secretary of War, and saying, okay, the ball's yours now. Because remember, they have all these National Guard deployed all over the country. They set up these quick reaction forces. So I think it's partly because they have a imminent threat that they know is coming, domestically with outside agitators. And it could be once Trump issues if Trump issues this national emergency, people start losing their shit. But you remember during the Biden administration and towards the end of the Trump's first administration, we kept seeing all these fencing go up and down, up and down, up and down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And we couldn't figure out why they kept doing it. There was no quote unquote credible threat. And we've always heard the phrase, you're watching a movie, right? What if this was already done? Hypothetically, this is where my mind goes.
Okay.
So you've already done this and it's already been prepared. We are just now going to see it be revealed where Congress is actually possibly removed and everybody is going to have to re-register to vote, and all congressional members are going to have to go up for re-election under a national security posture. I mean, people say, nah, that's not possible. But when you have served in the military and in certain fields, you know anything is possible.
Yeah.
They teach you in certain aspects to completely think outside the box. And if they knew that this was going to be the outcome or what needed to be done, then we want to get rid of a threat matrix of people showing up to DC during what they think something is going on when it's not really going on at that time.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, we can't really know and they can't really expose, but they can leave it up to us to logically think it out or try to understand it. But in reality, it's like, how do you really know? Because I don't think unless you've been in the military or you've even talked to somebody that's in the military to know, because they can't tell you a lot, as you know. You tell us what you can, but there are so many things we don't know that they do, that there are the different branches that behind the scenes. It's got to be secret, right? For a reason. So right. That's where I have hope in our military. I've always supported the military, and I believe that there are more good than bad out there. But we have to take a stand. Like, United says, we have to, even if it's like he says, a psychological operation, when we just kick back and act like we don't care, that's how we get taken over. And I'm not saying be violent. I'm saying be diligent. Like we've been preaching on this channel for so many years. Know who you're voting for. Know what's going on with the voting systems. Know who to call. Know just the simple little things that all of us can do make a big difference, because when they hear that we are roaring and we don't want to put up with this, it's not going to happen. The last part of the show tonight that I have, Jeff, and this is where it gives some hope. And this is something that is on whitehouse.gov. I did give it to the mods to drop in chat. And it's Trump's national security strategy of the United States of America that he put out. It says November 2025. And I'm going to show that. And what this is basically, I think it's 33 pages. And it is Trump's national strategy plan. So we're going to scroll through this a little bit here and cover the different categories. And this is where, when you say this about, have stuff been going on and you have your conspiracy hat, this is almost like the new version of that. My friend informed me of this and said, what do you think? And it just starts out with my fellow Americans. And it says, over the past 9 months, we have brought our nation and the world back from the brink of catastrophic and disaster. After 4 years of weakness, extremism, and deadly failures, my administration has moved with urgency and historic speed to restore American strength at home and abroad and bring peace and stability to our world. So then he goes on and talks about what they've achieved. He says, in everything we do, we're putting America first. What follows is a national security strategy to describe and build upon the extraordinary strides we have made. The document is a roadmap to ensure America remains the greatest and most successful nation in human history and the home of the freedom on earth. In the years ahead, we will continue to develop every dimension of our national strength and will make America safer, richer, freer, greater, and more powerful than ever before. And then it's DJT. He signed it. So if he's not in office, I mean, I don't know how we're going to do that, but hopefully some changes start changing, like the EOs get signed in and stuff. But then that's a whole nother battle with new presidents that come in. But the table of contents is right here, Jeff, and it basically talks about, in layman's terms, so we can understand what is going on with the policies that affect us. And so we can take action and do what we want to do and understand what our government's doing. So it talks about how American strategy went astray, President Trump's necessary welcome correction, what should the United States want, what do we want overall, what do we want in and from the world, and then it goes to what are America's available means to get what we want. And then it goes down into his strategy, principles, priorities, the regions, and it covers the Western Hemisphere, Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. So it is basically a simple breakdown that we put in chat that you guys can scroll through and see, and it helps you kind of understand. This is his strategy. This is, I guess, is Jeff is what's inside of his head and what he wants to get out to we, the American people. But my question to you, Jeff, is he can put that out there, but if he doesn't have people to back this and facilitate this, it's not going to be done. So why is he putting it out there, do you think? And what do you think about him putting something like this out there?
Well, I think this is kind of like his version of the Marshall Plan. They had the Marshall Plan in place and we got away from it. And, if you look at some of the progress that has been made in under a year, right, where, conservatives feel that, and, people who love this country has been made, all that can be destroyed in 3 years.
Yeah.
When he leaves office, because even if it is a quote unquote Republican that succeeds him, they can just, with a stroke of a pen, it'd be done. So if Trump's not a fraud, if he isn't the same end of a bad stick, then something has to happen prior to the midterms. Something major has to happen, because if they have been stealing elections, both Republicans and Democrats, it's not just one party line. Who's to say they're not going to do it again?
Right.
And because trust me, if what we believe Donald Trump is there for, 99.9% of Congress wants to see him gone, because it's going to cut their money off. It's going to cut their lifestyle off. They've made promises to companies, corporations, cartels, foreign dignitaries, foreign leaders that they have to fulfill. And if those fulfillments aren't done, then, they may get 86th. So they all have a lot to lose. And the thing that concerns me is, who is the president of the United States listening to?
Yes.
because
Yes.
I know one person has his ear, and they fight a lot because he doesn't want him to do certain things. But ultimately, Trump wins, and he tells me that all the time. He says, "No, we're doing this. You need to make sure it happens." So, he's given that responsibility to make whatever. So if that's the case, then why can't Donald Trump put in Pam Bondi and say, "Hey, get this shit done"? Because if you can't get it done, I'm going to find somebody who can.
Well, I was glad that he finally put her under the fire, because I'm not impressed with her. And I mean, I don't know, he seems a lot edgier, and he seems a lot, I don't want to say angrier, but determined. Like, he's like, enough of this crap already, but the S word instead. He just seems fed up. And I want to believe that he is the good guy. I've believed he's the good guy all along. And I know that his hands are tied on certain things, and he's trying to do everything he can. But at what point can the president just fire everybody and get rid of all these corrupted people, saying we have to go through a process? How can we go through a process, Jeff, when it's corrupt? What are
Right.
the alternatives?
Well, and like I've said for going on 5-6 years now, the only resolution to this is to invoke the Insurrection Act. That is the one safeguard that the founding fathers gave the acting president of the United States. If government has come corrupt and all fail safes have, collapsed, then that's the last trigger that the commander-in-chief, president of the United States has, is to invoke the Insurrection Act. And, I know a lot of people want to see it happen. I necessarily don't want to see it happen, but damn, put something in front of us to show the American people and the people in this community who actually give two shits that,
Right.
yeah, something's being done. Because if it were you or I that was doing some of this nonsense, shit, we'd be lucky if we got a trial.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as we wrap this up, this is a little clip I want to play from a guy off Newsmax that General Mike Flynn put out there. And actually, it kind of envelops how I feel as well. So let's play this, and then we'll go into our final thoughts. If I can find the play, but it's up there.
Everyone's like, oh, this is the most important election. No, the most important election of our lifetimes from here on out is the next one. Okay. And then the one after that. And then the one after that. And if Republicans don't make these things into law and get this through their head, they're going to lose. And Republicans are going to sit there in the minority scratching their head. I don't understand why we didn't have turnout. The better question is, Mike Johnson, why would we show up to vote? You haven't thrown a single person in jail. There's no accountability for COVID. And New York Dems ran the guy who literally stuffed elderly patients into retirement homes with COVID and killed people. They blocked meds that would have saved lives. They shut down schools. They forced people to get a vaccine against their will, who then got heart conditions and nothing happened. And they lied about it, coming from some dude that it was in he ate a bat in a wet market while Fauci and his cabal were killing beagles and funding the Wuhan coronavirus lab and expected us to believe that it didn't come from a lab in Wuhan named coronavirus. No one in jail for Russiagate, for censorship. Not one of the 51 former Intel officials who told us that Hunter Biden's laptop was a Russian plant. It actually does turn out that Hunter Biden was, in fact, smoking crack in bathtubs with hookers. You feel he was James for like the third time today because you did it wrong the first time. Still haven't charged Adam Schiff for the same mortgage fraud. Looks like James Comey is probably going to get off scot-free. And the best the Republicans can do is here's $800 million more for Ukraine. Why the hell would Republicans be excited to vote if Trump's not on the ballot? You want to keep your majority? Throw 100 people in jail for political corruption and all the corruption that Doge uncovered. None of those people are in jail. That's like low-hanging fruit. including everybody involved with the auto pen primary, all the 21 state senators in Indiana who just voted with Democrats to oppose congressional redistricting for their own party. They essentially just gave up 2 seats. Abolish the filibuster and just start getting stuff done. Give us nationwide reciprocity. Abolish the income tax. While you're at it, let's deep six the IRS, and then you can sell the building or drone strike it or do whatever you want so nobody can come back to it. And then you can tell the Muslims seeking refugee status to do it in the 56 surrounding Muslim countries that they have rather than here, so we don't have to pay their benefits. You do that, you'll gain seats in the House. We'll have 300-seat majority. People like me will be excited to go out and vote because we're not right now. Because if you do that stuff, man, Mike, I'm telling you, I will legit run through a wall like the Kool-Aid dude to get to the polls. But if you don't, you'll lose.
I swear that guy, he made me laugh so bad when I saw that, because really he's speaking with passion and truth. And I think a lot of us do feel that way. We feel like we've been just taken over by this not just crazy people, but bad people. And it's like you just are banging your head on the wall because you got all these people in Congress that aren't doing squat diddly and happy because they signed a 3,000-page document for the military defense that they didn't even have time to read it all. Like, it's insanity to me.
So this is going to be my first response is going to be a joke.
Okay.
To get people to laugh.
Okay.
Because the reason I laughed when he said the Kool-Aid man is we had a guy that was attached to our intel division in Hawaii. He was the #1 Korean linguist that the Navy had.
Okay.
So he was the go-to guy for the Pacific Fleet. And I mean, this guy was so out of shape. He wouldn't be able to pass a PT test to save his ass. And so every 6 months, we had to do a PT test. Every time a PT test come around, they found a way to deploy him through direct support. And so I remember when he came back from a boat run, our chief, he come back to the command, and our chief had told him, dude, you're supposed to lose weight when you go on these trips. You're supposed to come back smaller. He goes, I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get you a red tent, have you put it on, and bust through the wall like Kool-Aid. So that's why I laughed at that. It's like, this sounds so familiar. But so the gentleman that you played, he was a tier 1 operator
Okay.
in the SEAL teams. You see the difference in guys that were in select groups of the military. They know, like this guy knows what the president can do.
Okay.
All he has to do is say, get it done. Here is your orders. Make it happen. That's why guys that, have served in the military, whether it's in special forces, whether it's in, intelligence communities, we get so damn frustrated because we know what can be done and what can be ordered. Hell, we do operations that are illegal throughout the world. On paper, it's illegal, but we do them anyways. And that's vested at the presidency of the President of the United States. So eventually, either Trump's going to have an epic fail because the base in itself is fracturing. People are getting fed up.
Mhm.
And because people are still suffering, they keep touting all these great economic numbers. We're probably on par to have one of our worst Christmas seasons this year. Because,
Sure.
and it's not, some people have money, but everybody knows something is in the mix, and they're not really thinking about spending money. They're trying to hold on to it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Trump's got a limited time. He's only got, 9 months, I would say. And, God forbid if what we think is true doesn't happen, then, but I think within the next week or two, we're going to see the national emergency order come out.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't want any of that kind of stuff to happen, but if it has to happen to straighten it out, then it has to, Jeff, because just trying to do it this way, it doesn't seem to be working because we're not getting anywhere. And I don't know why the Republicans all this time haven't been able to pass one EO or turn it into law. I mean, that's just baffling to me. When he signed, didn't he sign near 100 his first day in office or his first?
Right.
So,
Well, I can sum it up with one phrase. The Republicans don't have a backbone.
there we
The
go.
Republicans don't want to get dirty. And when your other side of the aisle is always hitting you below the belt, sometimes you just have to kick them right in the yam bag.
Yeah. Well, I think it was a great show. Before we go, though, it's always good to ask you if there's anything that you want to share that you didn't have a chance to share tonight, because if you do, right now would be a good time to do that.
Yeah. So the only thing I can say is we're getting into the holiday season, and I haven't been told directly or really indirectly, but keep your head on a swivel. There are events, and I'm sure people who read certain media outlets that something is going to happen. I mean, the warning signs are there. There are threat assessments, threat matrices that I've been basically told are getting greater. So if you go out and you're just keep your head on a swivel, be mindful of your surroundings, because I have a feeling we're probably going to eat one sometime during this period.
Okay. Well, that's good advice. Do you have a final thought on top of that?
My final thought is going to be, damn it, Donald, shit or get off the pot.
Amen to that. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for being here tonight. We appreciate it and all the information. And, I think it was a great show full of a lot of good information from you, from Chad, and from the articles that we had. It's awesome. My final thought is going to be, it is the Christmas season. Everybody, like Jeff said, celebrate with your families and loved ones. Be thankful and grateful for the things that we do have. Have some good meals with them, and just enjoy the holiday season as much as you can, you guys, because who knows what's coming around the corner. So with that, please, before you head out, can you guys please hit like, share, and subscribe for the show? I forgot to say that earlier tonight, but I was so busy involved with all this information and chat. I appreciate all the great comments in chat. I always appreciate everything that you guys do in the mods, and I will get you the link, you guys, for the newscaster. So with that being said, we will see you guys on the next one. LW will be back once again. He just wasn't here because he had so much going on. Like I said, with work and stuff, he was out of town and driving back and forth doing some things to get taken care of. So I do appreciate Jeff being here tonight with me, and we will see you guys on the next one. We love you guys. Take care. God bless. And like I said, we'll see you on the next one.